So speakers always say it's such an honor to be invited, but for me it really is, because despite this thing behind me, I am libertarian. I'm actually a guerrilla liberty activist, so I never say that. And I'm not a member of the party because I can't be. Because of the other thing that I am not, which is American. As you can tell from my strange speech impediment, I am actually a subject of the monarchy from which you won your liberty. So that fact is not lost on me, that you would invite me here to speak to you about liberty. So that's quite an honor and quite humbling. So thank you. Yeah, well, I'm here thanks to Michael because of, I think, a few conversations that we've been having. I am interested in how we go mainstream. And I don't really care how we go mainstream, and I don't really care what the label is that we use or don't use when we go mainstream. I just want to see our ideas be part of the normal. So when I found myself by accident with the Huffington Post platform, I thought, I mean, I've never fancied myself as a writer, but I thought, well, I'll write a few articles trying to put this liberty thing in the vocabulary of the left. And it turns out if you speak someone's own language to them, you can get through. And now, lest you think that this person who doesn't say I'm a libertarian and isn't American is some kind of infiltrator who wants to take you back as a colony. Let me just say that the organization that I am identified with, the Blue Republicans that Michael mentioned, which was founded specifically, by the way, to persuade Obama voting independents and Democrats to stick to their principles of civil rights, peace, and anti-cronyism by becoming Republican to vote for Ron Paul, as opposed to... That's not a hard sell here, is it? No. That organization, once Ron Paul was... well, he wasn't defeated, was he? He actually won, because he was cheated out of it, and he came second, so he actually won, technically. But he wasn't on the ticket. So we proudly endorsed Gary Johnson for president last year. So that's my credentials. So I'm bona fide, you don't have to worry. So I want us to win, and to start winning things, and I want us to go mainstream. And there's a curious phenomenon going on in Britain that I would like to tell you about, because it's not often, I think, that what's going on in British politics is directly relevant to American politics, and certainly liberty politics in the US, but right now, I think it is. We had massive tailwinds with Ron Paul. The movement that I became part of, and the energy of the people with whom I spent a lot of time talking and working, to try and win something for liberty here last year, is extraordinary. I don't know that it's unprecedented, but it certainly felt like it. And yet, 1%. We got 1%. It seems, I mean, the initial articles that I read, not only did we get 1%, a lot of us are apparently quite excited by 1%. We've been at this for 40 years. Arguably the most libertarian country in the world, less arguably the country with the most libertarian founding in the world. And the party that is called the Libertarian Party, with all of these tailwinds, and with all this data coming in, that statism and progressivism has roundly failed, and still we get 1%. And Gary Johnson was a good candidate, he had a good resume. And I should also say that I actually quite liked the marketing. I thought the campaign materials, I thought it was sharp, I thought it was a step up from what we normally did. So why 1%? In the UK, the only political party that anyone's ever heard of that even uses the word libertarian in its platform, small l, is UKIP, United Kingdom Independence Party. Didn't exist 20 years ago. Did not exist 20 years ago. Now polling consistently 14 to 15%. In England, yeah. And Nigel Farage, if you are listening to this on the internet, good job, mate. Good job, mate. What are they doing anything right that we're not? I think they are, and I want to talk about that. If you say the word monopoly of force in Britain, people probably try and work out what board game you're talking about. Like, there is no libertarianism, certainly by that name, in Britain. I shared a room at university with my best buddy in the world, a social and political scientist. Never once did I hear the name Hayek, Bastiat. No one never even heard about the American Constitution. They don't teach British history in Britain anymore. Never heard of classical liberalism, never heard about libertarianism, certainly never heard about anarchism. I mean, that sounds dangerous. So this is a society in which, essentially there is no libertarian. Britain, certainly since Thatcher, is a completely social democratic society. And yet UKIP polling 15%. How'd they do it? And why aren't we doing it? I don't think it's that complicated. It seems to me, and I speak as someone who, you know what, actually, just let me sidestep here. Let me say thank you to all of you, because I'm sure most of you in this room have been at this longer than I have. So it's yet a further cheek that I'm here kind of lecturing you, but I hope you find some of this useful. Thank you for the fight that you've been fighting. Yeah. No, see, I went to the side and I forgot my train of thought.
What's UKIP doing that we're not?
Yes. Oh no, well that's the whole point of the talk. I haven't forgotten that. Yes. Right, that's right. Okay. But thanks, it works. We'll do that. So I remember what it's like very clearly not to be a libertarian, and because I kind of got to this liberty thing quite recently, I remember what the conferences looked like 4 years ago, which is about when I started. And what they look like now, and they look kind of different. And the conversations that you have now, I'm pleased to say, with Liberty folks, especially the young, are very different from what they used to be. This is a good step in the right direction, and people like Michael and Taylor and so on are kind of representative of this. What the libertarians like to do, I think, was educate. They want to educate 330 million people in a blindingly obvious philosophy, if only they can just see it. Right? So, we have a problem with the poor. Well, let me tell you about central banking. Right? And off we go. Off we go. Here's the package. Right? Here's the package. You know what? I think this is a big secret, guys. Nobody cares what you think. Nobody cares. Right? Actually. You see, it's not nothing to do with us. We all care what we think. We all care what we think, which is a perfectly sensible, way to live our lives. Now, UKIP isn't trying to educate a country in a whole new political philosophy, which it would singularly fail to do in a manner similar to the way in which the libertarians have singularly failed to do that in 40 years. 40 years. UKIP's been around for 20. They picked one issue. The issue that they picked was not the issue that, according to their own philosophy, is the most important issue. It was the issue that was most important to everybody else that they were trying to persuade, but simultaneously was not represented in the political establishment in either of the main parties. That's it. That's it. If you only remember one thing I say, that's what we were doing wrong, and that's what I think we have to start putting right. The most, It ain't about you, it's about the other 330 million. And because we're so small, it really is the other 330 million. Okay. So in the article that I wrote before I had an extensive chat with Michael about this, the title of the article was "The Liberty Movement Must Ask the Most Important Question." The most important question, I hope is obvious now, is what is that issue here? What is the issue in the States that if the Libertarian Party make theirs, and get off the high horse about, here is the way to be an orthodox libertarian, this is the correct worldview, nobody cares, right? We find, what is the issue? Well, it probably should be civil rights, right? I mean, the takedown of civil rights Bush and Obama is, I mean, I don't need to tell you, is absolutely horrendous. Unfortunately, the American media is highly derelict, so people don't know, it seems, I mean, I don't know how they can possibly not know, but it seems they don't know just how many of their rights are being abused, civil rights are being abused. I mean, you know, you can go down the Bill of Rights now and just kind of put lines through them all, right, the ones that we've lost. But experiments show, and when I say experiments, I actually mean experiments in laboratories with large groups of people, that the easiest way to motivate somebody politically is injustice, And the big injustice that is felt left and right by Republicans and Democrats, by people who can't spell the word libertarian, is that stuff what they work for is being given to other people who don't deserve it. And now we live in an age of bailouts. We've got obviously a creeping welfare, but more than a creeping, a rampaging welfare state. But we've also got massive redistribution upwards to a specifically privileged class of Americans, and you know, the bankers and so on and so forth. And we've already heard today about the state-corporate axis. People who aren't libertarians feel it in their water. Right? Crony corporatism. And don't use that thing crony capitalism. It's not capitalism at all. It's crony corporatism. Right? And, yeah. Words really matter. Words really matter. Right? It's one of those two, civil rights or crony corporatism. And speaking to some of the smart libertarians in the executive here, it seems that a good decision is being made in terms of the Libertarian Party strategy, that rather than try and be an organization that teaches an entire political philosophy that no one is really ready to hear yet, that we will brand to actually speak to what people kind of feel in their gut, this visceral sense of there's something not right. It's the single issue. Now look, when UKIP, in Britain, the issue for UKIP is Europe, because all Britons know that the EU is a rising tyranny, but the Conservatives and the Labour Party, and for what it's worth the Liberal Democrats, are determined and have been for 2 generations to drive us into it. We also know that if you took a vote on it, the Brits would be out of the EU tomorrow.
So would every other country.
Yeah. Actually, it's worth making the point that in a few countries where the Constitution, the European Constitution, was actually put to a referendum, every single one voted it down, and it was imposed anyway. Europe is the fastest rise of tyranny in the world. And I'm pleased that the Brits still have enough of the spirit that kind of, you know, came over on the Mayflower, that they get that enough that they would vote themselves out. But so UKIP isn't even educating the people on that issue. The people were already there. They just own the issue. So what I'm talking, and I want to work with the Libertarian Party to help them do this, what I'm talking about is, we've got to find that issue for us, because we decided to be a political party, not an educational foundation. And political parties have basically 2 goals. One is win stuff, like elections, and the other is force the other political parties to do what we want them to do. UKIP, after only 20 years, half the age of the Libertarian Party, is polling 15%. The other day, the Prime Minister had to go to Europe and say, we will, in the renegotiations that are kind of, well, arguably inevitable with the collapse of, you know, the economic collapse over there, we will be repatriating powers to England. We are looking for a new deal. And if you don't give it to us, when I go to the people to put it to a referendum, the British people will pull out, right? That was a very big deal, that speech. A very, very big deal. Because all of the parties in the UK have talked about a referendum for a number of parliamentary cycles, and they've all backed off. And now, because UKIP, they don't have to win anything. UKIP has no representative in the British Parliament. But in district after district, they're taking so many votes away from the government party that they make them lose, right? We can do that. We can do it if we're talking about the one issue that the people in those districts already care about. You know, don't expect them to go and read The Creature from Jekyll Island, you know, before they go, oh yeah, I get it, because you know, as I say, they don't want. The way they're going to come into the party is this: they get so concerned about one issue that they feel alienated from the establishment on, that they come over, they start listening, they support you on those one or maybe two issues, and then they discover actually you guys are all right, really, and they're going to kind of ask you, what's this other stuff you're interested in? What's this monetary stuff? Oh, okay, all right. It's by osmosis. See, human beings were basically, when you're doing politics, you're not actually doing politics, you're doing psychology. Right, you've got to remember that, you know. So when we're doing politics, it's sales and marketing. It's all sales and marketing, right? And you know, ask us, I mean, really, what we should probably do is send all the Libertarian Party members just to, you know, do direct sales training, door-to-door sales. I think it would be, and if I'm saying anything that's right, by the way, it's because my first 3 months in America, that's what I did, door-to-door sales. Yeah, I guess that was my capitalist introduction. But you know, even in my writing, I'm using that stuff. It's about knowing the customer, about seeking first to understand before being understood. Right? Libertarians are really good at winning arguments. Lord Hailsham, you probably never heard of him, an old British lord, long dead, said, the best way I know to win arguments is to start by being in the right. We win arguments because we're usually right. Not worth squit if we don't win supporters. Okay, that's what we want. And it's worth not winning arguments if we do win supporters. And indeed, I've met a lot of libertarians that I think, in the process of winning the argument, guarantee that they will never win that supporter. Have we seen that? Because no one wants to be made to feel wrong. Don't ever do that thing where we're proving to the guy why we're right and they're wrong. All we're ever doing is clarifying their own position with them. Like, that's all we're ever doing, and that means we start with common ground. So I guess now what I'm saying, this works one-to-one, you know, over the bar, but it also works in terms of party political strategy, in terms of you know, finding that issue where we start not only with the common ground that doesn't have to be taught, but it's ground that is not common with the Republicans or the Democrats. If we can be threatening, if we can be threatening by basically defining the swinging middle, the independent vote, if we make independents now are the fastest rising group of voters, right, by registration. If we can make independent mean basically pro-liberty, basically constitutional, etc., etc., we can use the two-party system, which hurts us so much against itself. Because in a two-party system, it's the guys that control the guy in the very middle that can control the election. What's that guy's big issue? It's never more than one or two, right? It's never more than one or two, so that's what we have to find. So, I don't know how long, I should probably shut up now, shouldn't I? If anyone wants to talk about this stuff with me, I'm very happy to. I'm looking forward to working with the Libertarian Party, who I think now are starting to think this way, and I'm excited about that. You know, we made a decision to win elections to make liberty popular when we became a political party rather than anything else. And I get the thing of like, well, you know, but you've got to stick to your principles. You know, you mustn't concede your principles. Some people think that pragmatism is the opposite of principles. I say the only principles worth having are those that you can instantiate in some practical way. Okay. Now, Mrs. Thatcher's, Lady Thatcher just died, and I discovered, I'm on a British theme here, aren't I got a new quote, I heard a new quote of Thatcher's in the parliamentary tribute to her, which I thought, oh, I might use that when I speak to the Libertarians. It was quite simply that. Politics at its purest is philosophy in action. Yeah? And it seems that I think the mistake that maybe we've made as a movement has been that we've thought that politics at its purest is philosophy at its purest. No, different things, right? Well, I think I've probably made the point from many angles, and as I say, there's a lot more to be said on it. I do have an archive where I write about this stuff. I'm interested in not only getting the philosophy right, but in getting the strategy right, because, as I say, they do have to go hand in hand. So I would say that Thatcher's idea of political purism as philosophy in action, that's the only purism we need. Politics is a place for principles, not a place so much for purism, because purism tips over into orthodoxy so quickly, and that's always alienating. If you only have 2 minutes with someone and you want to bring them over, it probably isn't enough. I mean, sometimes we do like this verbal diarrhea thing, right? Can I get out the libertarian position in 2 minutes? Yes, I did. Okay, you know, I did it. Okay, they will tick. You're just throwing the ball at a wall. Just listen. Just listen. If you listen to anyone long enough, they will tell you how to sell them. Okay? And if you've only got 2 minutes and that's not enough time, that's fine. Then you're not going to make the sale that time. But give them a good experience with a libertarian, and then you'll have the next guy make the sale. All right? Okay, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it.